Hello, my name is Beth, and I'm a staff member in the Learning Abroad office at the University of Utah. This presentation is a quick introduction to passports. We'll talk about applying for your first passport, renewing your passport, and confirming that your existing passport will actually allow you to travel. So let's get started. A passport is an official document issued to a traveler by the government of the country from which he or she has citizenship. So, for example, if you're a U.S. citizen, your passport would be issued by the American government. Your passport is the most important document you have as a traveler. So later in this presentation, we'll take a few minutes to talk about what steps you can take to keep your passport safe. This presentation, just to be clear, this presentation is only for U.S. citizens. Students who do not have U.S. citizenship should contact the closest embassy or consulate of their home country. If you have questions about this, please stop by our office for assistance. Additionally, before we go any further, we need to make a little bit of information very clear. The information that we provide in this presentation was accurate as of the date that the video was produced. All information is subject to change at any time. It is your responsibility to research passport processes, requirements, timelines, details, and ultimately to obtain a passport that meets the travel criteria before departure. Visit the website on your screen for the most up-to-date information. Okay, so the big question is, do I need a passport? Yes, all participants in Learning Abroad programs must have a valid passport. Just because you have a passport, if that's the case, doesn't necessarily mean that you don't need to take action. If you fall into any of the criteria listed on your screen, you need to renew your passport right away. If your name has changed, if your passport's expired, if your passport is damaged, or equally important, if your passport will expire less than 6 months after your expected return date. You need to renew your passport. Now, I'm going to talk about that last bullet point for a few minutes. What that means is that if you intend to return, let's say your return flight is on June 1st, your passport must be valid until December 1st. This is a big deal. Airlines will actually check this and make sure that you have at least 6 months beyond your expected return date. And we have had University of Utah students who didn't take this seriously, and they were prevented from participating in their program. So it's really important that you take this seriously. Contact us if you have any questions about that criteria. Passports are issued by the U.S. Department of State or the State Department. The State Department is a federal agency. It's not a state agency. That's an important distinction. Part of the State Department's mission is to provide assistance to American citizens who are traveling abroad. They also are responsible for issuing passports. Whether you're applying for your first passport or renewing an existing passport, you can start the process online. And there's a link on your screen that will take you to specific instructions. So let's talk a little bit about what the process is for both applying for your first passport as well as renewing an existing passport. Now, just to be clear, the information discussed on this slide refers to adult passport applications. Passports for minors are a different process. Also keep in mind that, again, this was accurate as of the date it was produced. So it's important that you check the website on your screen for the most important and most up-to-date information. Let's start by talking about someone applying for their first passport. If you're applying for your first passport, you have to do so in person, okay? So you start by going to the website and filling out the application form. You're going to take this form to probably a post office. Many post offices offer passport application services. Be sure to call ahead. Some post offices only accept applications on certain days or during certain time frames, and not all post offices offer this service. So make sure that the post office you're going to actually has these services. You'll be required to provide certain documentation. Examples would be proof of citizenship, your ID, passport photos, and copies of the documents. Now I'm going to take a few minutes to talk about two of them, these requirements. One is the passport photos. Many students try to create homemade passport photos to cut costs. The truth is this tends to backfire. It's very hard to produce the quality and meet the requirements for passport photos that are required if you do it at home. We recommend that you go to a photographer and have it done professionally. That's not expensive. It costs about $7 to $15 depending on where you go. In terms of making copies of documents, it's possible that you'll be required to submit copies of all the, like photocopies of all these documents with your application. We also recommend, though, that you keep a set of copies for yourself. That's just good practice. You will be required to pay a fee. At the time that we produced this video, the fee for a first passport for an adult was $135. Now let's shift gears and let's take a few minutes to talk about passport renewals. In most cases, passport renewals are a little bit easier. Generally speaking, you can renew your passport by mail if your current passport is undamaged. However, if your current passport was issued before your 16th birthday, you may have to apply in person. Make sure that you check the website on your screen to verify that you don't need to apply in person if you're trying to renew your passport. You're going to go to the website on your screen. You're going to fill out the form. You'll again have to provide passport photos and possibly some documentation depending on your circumstances. Once again, we recommend that you make copies for your own records. And then you'll have to pay the fee. The good news is a passport renewal is a little bit less expensive than getting your first passport. And as of the date on which this video was produced, the fee for getting a passport renewed is $110. At that point, you would likely mail your materials to the address provided or appear in person, depending on your circumstances. How long does it take to get a passport? That depends a little bit. If you're getting your first passport, it typically takes 6 to 8 weeks during regular times of the year. It can take more than 10 weeks during busy times of the year, and this includes summer travel. So students who are applying for passports in the spring but intend to travel in the summer need to put extra time on their timeline. Just a note, the State Department recommends that if you need to travel in less than 10 weeks, that you have your passport application expedited. If you're renewing your passport, again, good news, it's typically a little bit shorter. It takes about 4 to 6 weeks. We recommend starting 8 weeks in advance, especially during the busy times. And again, that would include students going abroad in the summer. You can check the status of your application or renewal on the State Department website, which is listed on your screen. One more note about timelines and how long it takes to get a passport. Make sure you factor in holidays. This is especially important for students who might be going abroad during the spring semester. There are 3 holidays in November, December, and January, and that can set things back. So make sure that you factor holidays into your timeline as well. Occasionally, students have unique circumstances that impact their passport applications. So on the next few slides, we'll take a few minutes to talk about some of these situations. Let's say that perhaps you didn't plan well, or maybe you've lost your passport, and now you need a passport in a hurry. There is expedited service available, but it will cost you. At the time this video was recorded, expedited fees were an additional $60 plus the cost of overnight delivery. So it can be quite pricey to expedite a passport. If you're running behind, we recommend that you expedite your passport application or renewal. Passport delays will not justify a refund of your program fees. So it's worth the investment to have your passport expedited and participate in your program. If you choose to expedite your application, follow the instructions at the link on your screen. Be sure, again, to factor in holidays and other national closures. This is particularly important for students studying abroad in the spring. Again, there's a lot of holidays at the end of the year, and that can set the timelines back. Other situations that you might encounter would be name changes, damaged passports, passports that are out of pages. The State Department actually has a really good frequently asked questions page with information about passports, and a link to that or the URL for that website is on your screen. If you have any other questions or there's any other odd situations involving your passport, we recommend that you visit this website. Okay, now before we go, we want to talk about document safety. As we mentioned earlier in the presentation, your passport is the most important document you have while you're traveling abroad. So we want to give you some tips for keeping it safe. We've divided this information into two sections. The first is before you go, and these are tips for steps that you can take before you go that will help keep your documents safe. The second is called when you arrive. And these steps will help you keep your documents safe once you arrive in the host country. Now, just for clarification, when we refer to documents, we're talking about passports, IDs, credit cards, debit cards, plane tickets, birth certificates, anything like that that you might take with you would fall into this category. So let's start with the before you go section. We do recommend that you make copies. You should make one set of copies that you're going to leave here with someone you trust, and a second set of copies should go with you to the host country. That serves as your backup in the event that your documents are lost or stolen. Never pack important documents or passports in checked luggage. First of all, you're probably going to need those documents before you can get to your checked luggage. So if it's in your luggage and you arrive and you don't have access to those documents, you could have problems with immigration. Secondly, luggage gets lost. And if your documents are in your lost luggage, you've also lost your documents. So you want to make sure that you pack your documents and your passport in your carry-on luggage. Only bring what you need. If you don't need a particular credit card or document in the host country, leave it at home. That's one less thing you will have to worry about. Last, we encourage you to register with STEP. The State Department allows travelers to register their information with the nearest U.S. consulate or embassy in the host country. This program is called STEP, which stands for Smart Traveler Enrollment Program. Among other benefits, STEP allows you to submit passport information in advance. In the event that you lose your passport or your passport is stolen, this will help facilitate the process of getting it replaced. Now let's switch gears and let's talk about some things you can do after you arrive. Always know where your passport is. If it is not on your person, you need to know where you've left it. Again, we can't reiterate enough, your passport is the most important document you have as a traveler, so you need to take care of it. Do not carry your passport with you unless you need to. This is a common travel myth. We do not actually recommend that you walk around with your passport unless you absolutely need to have your passport with you. Generally speaking, the more you move your passport around, the more likely you are to lose it. So, of course, walking around with it or keeping it on your person increases your chances of losing your passport. If it makes you nervous, you can always carry a Xerox copy of your passport on you instead of your actual passport. Make sure you store your documents in a secure place. Many hotel rooms have safes that you can use. You can also lock your passport into a pocket in your suitcase or put it somewhere secure in your housing facility. Make sure you keep your copies separate from the originals. This is another mistake that students sometimes make. If you keep your copies and your originals in the same place and you lose the originals, you've also lost your copies. So make sure that you store them in separate places. And last, carry your documents in a secure place, such as an interior zipped pocket. If you do need to carry your passport with you, make sure that it's secure. Before we go, we want to leave you with a couple of important links. The first one is the link to the passport application and renewal website. That's a great resource for you as you're beginning this process. We also have the website for the STEP program. Again, that's the Smart Traveler Enrollment Program that allows you to register your passport information with the nearest embassy or consulate. Students Abroad is also a website hosted by the State Department, and that's a great resource as you're preparing to leave. And last, you can also find passport information in the Learning Abroad Handbook. That concludes our presentation. Thank you for joining us today. To help you prepare for your experience, we encourage you to view the other videos in this series. We have videos on culture and culture shock, visas, travel health, safety, and a few other topics as well. If you have any questions, please contact us. You can stop by our office in the Union, Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. You can also email us or call us using the information on your screen. We hope you enjoyed the presentation, and we wish you the best as you prepare for your program.